Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We will have better and longer hours of service so people aren't bypassed on full buses.
The province pledges more money for Metro Vancouver Transit, but mayors wonder where Ottawa's support is.
I'm disappointed that the federal government continues to be absent from supporting our region's needs.
Plus,
there was a mixed anticipation about the credit because the government has let the disabled community down so often.
disability advocates in BC are not impressed with the new federal benefit meant to start next summer. And Kamloops honors a fallen pilot with a new memorial near its airport.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. It is better news for transit users across Metro Vancouver. The BC government says it is handing TransLink hundreds of millions of dollars more to buy more buses and expand service. But as Mira Baines explains, some local mayors are angry Ottawa has not stepped up in the federal budget.
Transportation Minister Rob Fleming says TransLink users will see improvements to the Lower Mainland's bus service in the fall.
We will have better and longer hours of service so people aren't bypassed on full buses, especially south of the Fraser. We will have better and longer hours of C-bus service so people can get back and forth to the North Shore more efficiently.
The $300 million in provincial funding will also go towards the purchase of more buses. It can't come soon enough.
The frequency of the buses in Surrey specifically are really poor. Sometimes you're waiting more than 30, 45, up to an hour.
I wish we had more trains. I'm really glad that they're building the Broadway line, although I wish it would go all the way to UBC.
The mayor of Port Coquitlam and chair of the Mayor's Council thanked the province, but was critical of Ottawa for not providing new funding now to support the region's transit.
It is obvious that so much of the demand being placed on our transit system is from the decisions that the federal government has made with respect to population growth and immigration.
Starting in 2026, the federal government's permanent public transit fund will inject $3 billion per year into transit. TransLink CEO wants that date to be moved up.
What we've been advocating for is to accelerate that funding to implement that in 2024, right? To bring it forward 2 years.
While the federal budget invests $8.5 billion in new spending for housing, there are questions over why transit isn't getting more.
The newcomers that they are inviting to Canada, the homes they are asking us to build, must be met with deeper transit investments.
TransLink CEO Kevin Quinn said the federal government has committed $1.3 billion to the new Surrey-Langley SkyTrain project, but more infrastructure money is needed. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
A BC Review Board hearing for a man who killed his 3 children ended abruptly after the man's lawyer quit. Alan Schoenborn has been held here at the Forensic Psychiatric Hospital in Coquitlam since 2010 after he was found not criminally responsible for the killings. The hearing was going to determine whether he should remain in treatment or receive a conditional or full discharge. But it was adjourned after Schoenborn started shouting at the hearing panel over some of their questions. His lawyer said they could not continue with the case. A family friend of the children's mother spoke with the early edition before the hearing.
And Alan Schoenborn has shown little progress over 15 years of being a patient. He still has anger issues. He has no supports in the community. His family is all but estranged. So for him to be released without the proper care and supports is going to lead to further tragedy. And the family is just heartbroken by that possibility.
During his trial, the court was told Schoenborn was experiencing psychosis at the time he killed his 3 children and believed he was saving them from sexual and physical abuse. 2 years ago, he was granted unescorted leave from the hospital for a period of up to 28 days. When Coquitlam RCMP began searching the Fraser River for a stolen vehicle recently, they got much more than they bargained for. 3 other submerged vehicles, including a school bus, were found. So far, a black Honda Civic stolen in 2010 has been pulled from the water. Coquitlam RCMP first responded to the scene after getting calls of a vehicle driving into the Fraser. They tried going in that night, worried there may have been passengers in the car, but they couldn't reach the vehicle because of strong currents.
Initial dives indicate that no one was seen in the driver's seat, but a thorough investigation and search of the vehicle will happen once that vehicle is taken out of the water.
Mounties say their dive team has struggled to gather information on the vehicles, including license plate numbers and other things. The Ministry of Environment and Climate Change has now taken over, pulling the vehicles out because of potential environmental concerns. Chilliwack RCMP say they have seized large amounts of illicit drugs, guns, and cash after carrying out several coordinated search warrants. Mounties searched various locations in Chilliwack, Vancouver, Surrey, and Langley. They say they seized over $500,000 in Canadian currency, about 50 kilos of suspected drugs, and numerous guns. They arrested 7 people who have since been released pending investigation. To Kamloops now, where crews are working to install a memorial art piece at a new park near the airport to honor a fallen pilot. Almost 4 years ago, a bird strike caused a snowbird jet to crash. Royal Canadian Air Force Captain Jennifer Casey was killed. The new May She Soar monument, created by artist Sarah Holliday, features a plane made of a mosaic of maple leaves and branches held up by 3 pillars. The City of Kamloops says the new Fulton Field Park is set to open fully later this year. Local advocates for people living with disabilities say they are disappointed with the federal budget. They say it does not provide enough for those struggling to get by. So Rob Sandhu has more on their concerns about a new benefit.
Heather McCann is a disability advocate based out of Vancouver. Tuesday's federal budget announcement has not come as a surprise to them.
The government has let the disabled community down so often.
A new benefit for those living with a disability and low income will provide them an additional $200 per month, with payments set to begin rolling out in July of next year.
When you're given $1,300, which is less than half of what 1 month's average rent is in Vancouver, you're already struggling to house yourself, feed yourself, clothe yourself. You add the disability and it's all the harder.
The budget has allocated $6.1 billion over 6 years towards the new disability benefit. The announcement comes on back of the legislation passed last year to introduce a new national benefit meant to lift people out of poverty by topping up provincial support funding.
I'm not quite sure what happened there, because that is not lifting disabled people out of poverty.
Advocates say Tuesday's announcement is a reminder that more community representation is required at the decision-making level.
We need that leadership from within our community to not only be active, because lots of disabled people were active with this. It's the government to actually listen to what we are saying, as well as to prioritize disabled people.
We intend to keep telling our stories, because our stories as disabled people are simply unforgettable.
According to the advocacy group Disability with Poverty, about 1.6 million Canadians with disabilities are living below the poverty line. But not everyone qualifies for the benefit, and Tuesday's budget says only $600,000 will be covered. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
As BC's wildfire season begins, more people are being trained to fight fires on the ground and in the air. The CBC's Ian Hannemanson got quite a unique glimpse into aerial firefighting and brings us this report from above.
Fire Guard 124, head to Cessna.
Fire Guard 124, roger.
This is 800 feet target altitude, so this would be the altitude that they would be at above the tree. Now dropping. You've got terrain off your right side, so you got to watch out for that terrain there.
We're watching pilots practice what they'll soon be doing for real for months, an air assault on a wildfire.
Can't believe how low he is. Bullseye, you are clear to come around.
We'll likely see a lot of video of aerial firefighting this summer, but what happens here is a less well-known story. This is the headquarters of Con Air, just outside of Vancouver in Abbotsford, British Columbia. They have a fleet of more than 70 aircraft, more than 90 pilots, and they're giving us an inside look at how they're getting ready for fire season. We're headed to Harrison Lake, a short flight from Abbotsford. Ryan Gahan is going to show us a training mission. He's Con Air's fleet manager of air attack operations.
Everything that we do over fire will go on practice.
You use the word practice, but it's pretty serious stuff, this training session.
It's very serious.
It is a gorgeous day for flying, but keep in mind, when these pilots do this for real, the conditions will almost certainly be jarringly more challenging.
Depending on how intense the fire is, it kicks off a lot of energy and does create interesting weather patterns and can adjust the winds.
Let's take you behind the aerial choreography. The lead plane is called the Bird Dog. On board, beside the pilot, there's an air attack officer, an expert on fighting fires. They would take a closer look at a fire and identify the precise target for the tanker. The Bird Dog pilot then flies the best approach and releases smoke to show the tanker pilot where that target is.
And then you can see the Bird Dog is behind the tanker. Now the Bird Dog is checking the tanker's line. Right, he's
helping direct it if needed.
Helping direct if needed. They usually drop around 100 feet above the canopy. So you don't want to drop too low because you want the water to lose, the drop to lose all that forward momentum. But if you drop too high, then the load will start blowing apart and you don't get the accuracy that you're looking for.
Where does a pilot learn all this stuff?
We teach them.
Before Con Air can teach you to fight fires, you need to be an experienced pilot. Around 3,000 to 4,000 hours of flight time. I'm kind of surprised at how many simulators you have. This is Con Air's Simulation Training and Tactics Center. A fleet of simulators can be linked together the way these pilots will have to coordinate their firefighting flights this summer.
687, we're required to have a tower and having visual.
Scott Stewart, the manager of flight standards, is letting me take the yoke. I'll try not to have a big smile on my face here.
Well, you should have a big smile on your face. This is fun. You are airborne. So here we go. We've got a fire, top of a ridge. Looks like it's burning south to north.
On this day, the team is taking on a simulated wildfire near Kamloops in BC's interior. Retardant is dropped just ahead of the fire to slow it down. Ground crews can then go in and try to contain the fire.
So we never want to go into something where we have to, we don't have a planned escape maneuver. So I would never go at a fire like this direction just because you've got hills and everything behind you.
And here you're not dealing with flying technique, you're dealing with firefighting technique, right?
Yes, mostly firefighting technique. However, there is some flying technique. But the biggest thing is to be very predictable for everybody. Yeah. So we'll just do a little bit of a right turn and widen out a bit from the mountain.
Clients, like the province of British Columbia, rely on Con Air and other companies during the wildfire season. BC says on average it runs about 560 missions with tankers every year. But the season's getting longer, more intense, and the need for aircraft is increasing. This is Hangar 2, where they convert passenger planes into air tankers. They used to do 1 a year here, now it's up to 5, and that's not keeping up with demand. They're transforming a Dash 8-400 airliner into an air tanker. Con Air points out this is a very Canadian operation. The plane, built by de Havilland, with engines from Pratt & Whitney, Canada. Jeff Barry is the VP of Business Development.
We can work off 5,000 feet, but we can also fly at 360 knots, and we can draw long lines of retardant supporting those folks on the ground. So it really becomes a great fit for almost every aerial firefighting need in the world.
The Dash 8-400 is currently not in production, so Con Air searches the world for them. Like from Britain's Flybe Airlines, which went out of business just over a year ago. The cabins are stripped of seats, a tank is attached, which can carry 10,000 liters of retardant. The same things that make Dash 8s attractive to airlines, powerful, versatile planes which don't need long runways to land, make them perfect for fighting fires, too. Renee Sanch has been flying for 11 seasons with Conair, and he loves being at the controls of the Dash 8-400. You've flown a lot of planes.
I have.
Do you like this one?
I love it. It's got lots of power. It's not an easy aircraft to fly. It's fast. It's really fast. It's a sports car.
The pilots here say aerial firefighting is not for everyone. During fire season, the hours are long and intense.
Oh, you can feel the heat.
The stakes are high, but so's the reward. Sanj says after the Fort McMurray fire 8 years ago, he was hooked.
We were protecting the highway because it was the only southbound route to get out of Fort McMurray. And we're dropping retardant and water right along the highway. The biggest reason I remember it is everybody got out of Fort McMurray and they evacuated 80,000 people and there was no deaths, there's no injuries.
And you played a role in that.
I did.
The fact that all those people got out safely is due in part to what you and other pilots did.
Yes.
Next week, Sanj and another pilot will be flying their planes to Alberta, joining 2 others which are already there. The company says it's the earliest deployment they've ever had for a long-term contractor. Everyone is getting ready for what's expected to be a longer fire season.
Time for our BC-wide weather forecast. The first check-in, Darius Madavi. Interesting piece by Ian, eh? Quite the access, amazing.
I know, yeah, and unfortunately, it does look like it's going to be a busy season, so far at least. I mean, right now, we're quite dry. I know we got some snow up in the northeast, which was very much needed just in the last week or so, but unfortunately, nothing but sun ahead. Conditions are still cool in many places in the province, but up in Fort Nelson, we're seeing 14, 15 degrees, so all that snow with these sunny conditions not going to last too long, and we've got a dry stretch ahead. You can see here across the province, not very much precipitation activity happening at all. We're not missing anything because there's no radar happening up here. There's just nothing happening. Now, we see a little bit of activity still happening as that tapers off in parts of the southern interior. A little bit of activity, some little flurries, maybe those continuing overnight tonight in parts of the southern interior, which we can see here on our forecast. A little bit of activity still happening, but tapering off very quickly into the morning. Very little even cloud breaking in. Pretty much we're dry right through in the beginning of the weekend. Beginning early morning Saturday, we can start to see as that ridge of high pressure moves off, we get some clouds starting to move in with precipitation soon to follow. So Saturday, really, Saturday late evening is probably, Saturday early afternoon is probably going to be our big blast of rain, continuing into early evening in many places overnight, but should be tapering off into Sunday for most of the South Coast and Vancouver Island. Tonight across the province, we've got pretty calm conditions, and that's the case here in Vancouver too, where we're only expecting sun and clear skies.
Okay, we'll check in later. Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Fruit flies. Most people find them annoying, but some scientists find them fascinating. After the break, we fly into how flies fly and what we're only now learning about the species. Stick around. And thanks for joining our commercial-free live stream tonight. It has been 60 years since the first Ford Mustang went into production. To honor that milestone, hundreds of local Mustang owners gathered at the Essex Engine Plant, the home of the 5-liter V8 engine. CBC Windsor was at the pony car party.
We're celebrating Mustang's 60th birthday today. Look at all the people that are here to celebrate the iconic brand. It's amazing to see. We have 1964 Mustang over here. We got 2024s back here. Last count, we're over 200. And I think we have every generation of Mustang represented today. 60 years. It's an iconic brand. It's really much part of pop culture.
I'm leaning on my 66 Pony Edition convertible Mustang. This is an all-original car. It's a survivor, and that's what I love about it. It's just it's my baby.
Do you have a pet name for it?
No, my wife does though. She calls it my girlfriend.
It's the V8 engine, right, which is what we make here at Essex Engine Plant. The engine in this car was produced at Windsor Engine Plant. So Windsor's got a long-standing history of making high-quality V8 engines. It's a 1967 Mustang. I was 17. It was my first car. I've restored it twice. I've owned it since high school. And I took all 3 of my daughters home from the hospital in this car.
We're from a Ford family. My son has a Mustang, my grandson has a Mustang, we have a Mustang, and people just love the sound of the Mustangs. When they go down, they're very muscle car. So when you think of Mustang, you think of power and you think of fast.
Perhaps like many people, you've dreamed of flying like a bird, extending wings and gracefully gliding through the sky. But how about flying like a fly? Being a buzzing insect may not sound quite as appealing as a soaring eagle, but it probably would have been a dream for the researchers studying how insect flights work. After all, it had been a long-standing mystery until now. Here to tell us more is science specialist Darius Mahdavi. Darius, why has this puzzled scientists for so long?
Yeah, it seems like it should be straightforward, right? I mean, a fly flaps its wings fast enough and it lifts off. Easy peasy. But as you'll know if you've ever tried to hit one with a fly swatter, flies are capable of some pretty incredible aerial acrobatics. When it comes to agility in the air, no bird or bat can compete with a fruit fly. And unlike birds or bats or pterosaurs, which just took an evolutionary shortcut by adapting their forelegs into wings, insects did it the hard way.
They evolved the wing basically from scratch, de novo. So we don't really know where the wings came from, where the muscles that control the wings came from, where the parts of the nervous system that control those muscles came from. It's really a case of one of the most extraordinary novelties in sort of the history of life.
This is the marvel of evolution Dickinson was talking about, the fruit fly wing hinge, an incredibly complex system of interconnected parts, including muscles and those small, hard structures called sclerites. So picture a tiny fruit fly beating its wings over 200 times per second, and imagine trying to track that complex system of muscles controlling the wing hinge, moving the wings with such precision that the fly can dodge your swats. So buckle up, Dan, because this study has it all. Gene editing, AI, robotics, infrared cameras, even an insect flight simulator.
I can't wait. So you are promising a lot here. Where can we begin?
I think we should start with the flies themselves. Now, you wouldn't find these flies in your kitchen. They were genetically modified so their muscles glow when they contract or fire, which allowed researchers to track which muscles were firing at different times. You can see that glowing guy here. Now, those special flies were glued to a stick and put into a flight simulator. What we're looking at is an older version, but same idea. It's essentially a video game for flies with flashing lights they can steer toward. Now, while in the simulator, infrared cameras recording at 15,000 frames per second captured every glowing muscle and movement of the wings. In the end, researchers recorded 72,000 individual wing beats. And then they had everything they needed to train an AI. You have your input, what muscles were firing at a given time, and your output, the movement of the wings, and ta-da, your simulation. But the simulation alone couldn't tell us whether those muscle actions would translate to the ability to dodge a fly swatter in real life. So you have the robo-wing, which you can see here. You submerge it in oil and you deck it out with sensors, and the robo-wing showed that the researchers' AI model could actually simulate real-life insect flight. And there you have it, Dan. It only took 6 years. Easy peasy.
So this sounds like a very busy 6 years. What comes next for this?
Yeah, well, this is a breakthrough, but it's also a first step. Dickinson told me they're hoping to start building a massive database of these photos and this data and build even more complex models of the wing, because they've really only scratched the surface when it comes to understanding what's really going on here. And remember, this is only one species of fly they looked at. There are so many insects out there to analyze. And you might ask, why is it important to study the biomechanics of insect flight? Well, according to Dickinson, it might just be our best bet at understanding one of the most important breakthroughs evolution ever made.
I think life on Earth would be very different if insects had never evolved flight. I guarantee there would be no humans, working for television programs, interviewing scientists, because we'd probably not have flowering plants, because that's also what insects do, carrying pollen around. So I think if you look at the history of life, at least the history of life on land, it's hard to find something as important as the evolution of flight.
It's not just that insects were important either. Sure, this may sound like just a fun project that a team of lovable and insect-loving scientists took on, but insects are some of the most important creatures on Earth, and they're in massive decline, which spells disaster for everyone, whether it's wild bird populations or us with our food supply. So, Dan, the more research we can do, the more interested and invested people like you and I are in insects, the better off our planet and we will be.
Very interesting. Science and climate specialist Darius Mahdavi. Thanks for that. The largest gold heist in Canadian history. Now, police in Ontario have made arrests. Why, it's a story worthy of a Netflix special. Coming up.
I was legally blind in one eye and had significant impairment in the other.
In 2022, I was diagnosed with cataracts in both eyes.
I was pressured into purchasing a special laser eye measurement and toric intraocular lenses and told that I would not have to wear glasses if I paid for those services.
These patients say they were referred to private clinics to get their cataract surgeries done faster, and they were, but they also feel they were upsold.
There was a hard sell on the laser surgery as the only one that would restore my sight.
Pressured?
What was clear to me was that if I declined to pay the fee they were charging, they would not provide me with their superior equipment.
And duped.
I paid $2,450. That wasn't at all necessary, since I now have to wear distance glasses for watching television and so on. And I still need close-up glasses if I want to read a book.
All medically needed cataract surgery is covered. If you're being told anything else in a private clinic, that is not the truth.
The Ford government is planning to expand private for-profit clinics that do hips, knees, and diagnostics.
What we're trying to do is cut down on wait times.
At Queen's Park today, Sylvia Jones was asked about the Health Coalition's concerns.
We're talking about a group that is ideologically opposed to any innovation, any changes in the healthcare system. This can happen in a hospital, in a dentist's office, in a clinician's office. So we have that process in place right now, and the numbers show it is a very, very small group that have to have that investigation, ultimately get reimbursed when appropriate.
They charged me $190 for the lens for one eye and $575 for the lens in the eye with astigmatism.
These patients aren't expecting their money back.
Can you just tell them how much you paid? It was $8,000.
$8,000.
But they are at least expecting better oversight of private health care. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
To an extraordinary moment on Parliament Hill today. For the first time in more than a century, a private citizen was called before MPs inside the House of Commons to face their questions. Kate McKenna now with the historic grilling of a contractor at the heart of the ArriveCan controversy.
This is a once-in-a-century scene.
Mr. Christian Firth, please remain standing until I invite you to be seated.
A central figure in the ArriveCan controversy hauled in front of Parliament, questioned and condemned.
On behalf of the House of Commons, I admonish you.
This was Christian Firth's punishment after refusing to answer questions from a parliamentary committee about whether his company, GC Strategies, helped set the terms for the $25 million ArriveCan contract it ultimately won, a charge Firth denies.
To most Canadians, this would look like, and I won't exaggerate, it would look like a rigged system.
Mr. Speaker, the RFP, the contract that's in question, had over 220 requirements involved in there. We offered up 3 suggestions.
His appearance one day after RCMP searched his home.
That's correct. There was a search warrant, not an arrest warrant, for my property.
The RCMP says the investigation is unrelated to ArriveCan, but Firth told the House of Commons it is related to dealings with public contracts.
We're looking forward to the investigation by the RCMP because we believe it'll incinerate us.
He admits he made a mistake by not responding to questions at committee.
Again, acknowledging the fact that I'm being admonished, making history right now, I think I've acknowledged the fact I made mistakes in previous committees.
But he says he delivered his work on time and on budget. He refused to apologize for his work.
All I can say is, aren't you ashamed?
Mr. Firth.
Mr. Speaker, do I have to answer that?
Yes. Yes, you do.
No, I am not ashamed.
Being called before the bar of the House of Commons is exceptionally rare. Only a handful of Canadians have ever been found in contempt of Parliament. Now a parliamentary committee will review the testimony and determine whether further steps are needed. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
3 men who took part in the 2022 blockade of the border crossing in Coutts, Alberta, have been convicted of mischief. Alex Van Herk, Margot Van Hugenbos, and Gerhard Janssen have been found guilty of 1 count each of mischief over $5,000. The men were accused of organizing and coordinating the COVID-19 protest that closed the border with the U.S. for 18 days. They could be sentenced to up to a decade in prison. The case is due back in court in July, after which they'll be sentenced. Ontario police have made arrests connected to the largest gold heist in Canadian history. Exactly 1 year ago, thieves made off with about $20 million worth of the precious metal and $2 million cash from Pearson Airport. The CBC's Marianne Demain has the latest.
This was an extensive investigation, not only involving police in Canada, but also in the United States. And now 1 year later, at a news conference this morning, investigators revealed that they have now arrested 9 people, including someone who used to work for Air Canada, as well as someone who works at a jewelry store. They also announced that they have 3 Canada-wide warrants for 3 more suspects, including someone who is a manager with Air Canada. They also revealed details on how they believe this heist was pulled off in the first place. And here's what we know. $20 million in gold bars and $2 million in foreign currency was flown in from Zurich, Switzerland to Toronto on board an Air Canada flight and then loaded into a storage facility on the afternoon of April 17th of last year. On that same afternoon, police say the suspect truck reversed into the loading dock. A fraudulent document from an unrelated delivery was printed off within Air Canada's cargo facility and was given to an attendant to access the cargo. With the help of a forklift, the gold and cash were then loaded onto the truck, which then drove away. And it wasn't until that evening that Brinks, which is the security company commissioned by 2 Swiss banks to oversee that cargo, discovered that it was gone. Police say that given the employment information of some of the accused in this case, they believe this was an inside job.
Because of their position within Air Canada, in my opinion, yeah, they needed people inside Air Canada to facilitate this theft.
Now, so far, 90 grand of the $20 million of pure gold has been recovered in the form of bangles. $430,000 has also been recovered, along with 65 firearms. The arrests were the result of Project 24 Carat. That was a joint task force with Canadian and American law enforcement. But this is a much larger investigation because officials now also believe that this heist is connected to a weapons trafficking ring. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Explosives says it was a traffic stop in the United States last fall. That led to the discovery of firearms that police allege were headed to Canada and part of an international firearms trafficking ring.
We believe that they've melted down the gold, and then the profits they got from the gold they used to help finance the firearm, obviously purchasing the illegal firearms and that, and provide transportation, accommodation and that to get them up here. So we believe that's how the gold money has now kind of worked into the firearms trafficking aspect of the investigation.
Police say the investigation is ongoing. Marianne Domain, CBC News, Toronto.
A whistleblower has now testified in front of a U.S. congressional committee about the safety of planes made by Boeing. The company has many clients around the world, including Canada's two biggest airlines. And as Benji Heyer tells us, between them, Air Canada and WestJet fly more than 250 Boeing aircraft.
Well, this was damning from Sam Selapore. He alleges his employer is putting defective airplanes in the sky. As a quality engineer at the plane maker, he identified gaps between key sections of the fuselage of the 787 Dreamliner, which he says are not properly fastened. In other words, they could literally break apart. In front of a Senate Investigations Subcommittee, one of two Boeing-related hearings in Congress today alone, Mr. Selapore highlighted how shortcuts have been taken that he believes were not addressed nearly 100% of the time. He claims Boeing has, quote, no safety culture. He says he was ignored, sidelined, threatened by his superiors. He feared physical violence for going public with his concerns. And he insists all 787s should be grounded, admitting he wouldn't take his own family on one. He was joined by another whistleblower, Ed Pearson, a former manager on the 737 program, who hit out at Boeing's actions, calling them a criminal cover-up. He told senators that Boeing illegally stopped conducting thousands of quality control inspections without the knowledge of airlines. Now, Boeing maintains that such allegations about its plane's structural integrity are, quote, inaccurate, and it's also dismissing another of the whistleblower's accusations, that workers on the factory floor were seen literally jumping on parts of the fuselage on the 777 planes to make them aligned. Boeing still faces a criminal investigation by the Department of Justice here and separate investigations by the Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board. Benji Heyer for CBC News, Washington.
The NBA has now banned Toronto Raptors player Jontay Porter for life. It comes after an investigation into gambling allegations. The league found Porter violated several rules concerning betting, including disclosing sensitive information to bettors. The CBC's Jamie Strachan has more.
Jontay Porter has thrown away his NBA career, banned for life. The league says he bet on NBA games, including games involving the Raptors.
You don't want this for our team, and we don't want this for our league. That's for sure. My first reaction is obviously surprise, because none of us, I don't think anybody saw anything like this coming.
A league investigation revealed Porter tipped off bettors about confidential information and limited his play for betting purposes. The NBA also says Porter made thousands of dollars betting on at least 13 NBA games, including a bet on the Raptors to lose. He didn't play in any of those games. In a statement, Commissioner Adam Silver said Porter's actions compromised the league's integrity, which is why Jontay Porter's blatant violations of our game rules are being met with the most severe punishment.
There is gambling commercials and all that stuff that's going on with the league right now, but they cannot stand for someone who's betting on the games themselves. It's just a no-no. Doesn't go. Porter bats it in with a left hand. And
it was a suspicious bet involving Porter that cued this investigation. A gambler made an $80,000 bet that would pay out up to $1 million. If Porter didn't achieve a certain number of points, rebounds, and assists, Porter played 3 minutes in that game before pulling himself out with an illness. The bet was not paid out and was reported.
I mean, the sportsbook might have chose not to take that bet previously, but they wouldn't have to report it to the league. There would be no additional actions that were taken. But because of regulated gaming, this was able to be caught.
The NBA was the first major U.S. league to advocate for legalized and regulated betting, but still acknowledged today there are issues. Porter is the 18th player banned for life by the NBA, the first for gambling. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
It's a desert not known for rain, but when you get well over a year's worth in a day, you get floods. What might be behind the record rainfall in the Middle East after this?
As Samantha Nicholson feeds her 5-month-old Lila, she can't help but think about the cost of formula. It's constantly on her mind.
Laying awake in bed wondering if you're going to be able to feed your kid is just, it's a gross feeling. It's very not nice, and it's just something that feels very out of your control.
Nicholson and her husband Adam have 3 children under the age of 4. All were fed with formula. Since having their first baby, the price of this liquid gold has skyrocketed.
Now it's $43.99 for the same amount that in 2021 I was paying $28.99.
Shadia Foster has experienced a similar level of shock with her Lila.
It was just really disheartening to see the high cost and the lack of variety in different formulas.
She says in the last 2 months, cheaper store-brand formula has been nearly impossible to find. And Foster often speaks to other parents who simply can't afford what's left.
There are women who are saying they'll drive anywhere to get coupons. We shouldn't have to do that. You know, we should be able to easily go out and buy formula that's affordable and feed our babies.
At the North Grove in Dartmouth, staff have also witnessed a surge in desperation. The center offers resources including food for families in need. One of the most popular requests, formula.
I would say of every 7 parents who come in asking for it, we're able to provide for 1.
Wendy Fraser says many parents choose not to eat themselves or stretch their formula supply to make it last longer. This family physician has also talked to patients who water it down.
It's a concern because the actual formula will lose its nutritional value. It's supposed to be made in a certain way to be prepared, obviously. If you water it down, you're going to lose some of that nutritional value, and that's going to adversely affect the health of the baby as well.
The North Grove is one of several organizations that received provincial money last week to help pay for nutritional programs. But while Fraser says it will certainly help, a longer-term plan is needed to address the growing overall food crisis. Angela McIver, CBC News, Dartmouth.
Parts of Oman and the United Arab Emirates are underwater tonight after deadly flash floods caused after a year's worth of rain fell in one day. Thomas Dagla shows us the damage and the chaos.
Built up in the desert, the United Arab Emirates wasn't made to withstand this, as some parts of the country were pounded with more rain than ever recorded in one day. the water bursting into this mall, leaving staff struggling to keep up, while drivers saw roads transformed into rivers.
This is the first time I see in the history of UAE how the rain comes.
The Dubai International Airport, considered by one measure the busiest in the world, now left in chaos with flights disrupted and stranded passengers recording videos of that flooded tarmac.
It's a total difficult situation. I want to go home.
Toronto entrepreneur Irfan Shakarshi has spent half his business trip just bailing out his rented apartment. That view of the famous Burj Khalifa skyscraper, nothing to write home about this time.
I've been here several times before, and yeah, rain, maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maximum an hour, but this was something else.
As a cat hung on tight for dear life, a police officer went viral by making this memorable rescue. But this weather is no joke.
With climate change, what we see a lot is that you expect increased intensity of storms like this.
For some, the flooding highlights the UAE's use of flares released in the sky to spur rainfall. Known as cloud seeding, it's done this way in drier climates. But this expert tells CBC News,
no one can really fly in those conditions to cloud seed. So that's another indication where I can, for sure say that there was no cloud seeding involved in that.
In Dubai, schools are closed for the week and people are being told to work from home. This usually arid emirate is still drying out. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
Very different scenario for BC weather. Doris Madavi is here with the BC-wide forecast.
I don't know if we've been talking about drought for a long time, but we don't need that either.
No.
Sort of a happy medium would be great.
Yeah, steady.
Yes, and a year's worth of rain in Vancouver is a lot more than a year's worth of rain over there. So definitely don't need that. But with that being said, I could do with a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow. None on the way though. We have this blocking pattern setting up. So I would say it's sort of like a semi-omega block. So you got the really nice shape of that jet stream coming all the way around these systems, making the Greek letter omega. But it's not going to stick around too long, so I'm not sure it really qualifies, sort of a semi-omega feature. But this high-pressure system keeping BC dry and sunny over the next few days. Very little cloud to speak of. Now, we're not going to be too warm. This isn't a heat dome situation. We do have slightly below average temperatures in the interior, slightly above on the coast. But overall, the main thing this is doing is keeping our skies dry, our ground dry and our skies sunny. Now, we're going to continue to see this high-pressure system move off over the next few days. By Saturday, early hours, it moves off enough and it dissipates, moves further south enough that we have this low pressure start to move in, bringing us some rain, some proper conditions here on the coast. So Vancouver and much of the island can expect to see some decent rainfall on Saturday, more likely later in the day and then overnight, but should clear up for Sunday morning for anybody doing the sun run. So a little bit of good news there. You can see no cloud, no precipitation over the next few days until we hit Sunday, and then a big system rolls in, bringing a decent amount of rain and some snow to those higher elevations. Temperatures coming down a little bit, but we're not talking any low freezing levels or anything like that. Temperatures just dropping a few degrees for most places, a little bit more inland, but overall pretty calm over the next few days. Not too much change in the way in terms of precipitation, but not in terms of temperatures. You can see that here today. Conditions pretty nice. Going to continue to warm up over the next few days. See temperatures in the interior come up by a few degrees, dropping a tiny bit on the coast, just those couple degrees, but coming up in the interior still on Saturday. Maybe some change coming on Sunday as well. But conditions tomorrow, just sunny, really, across the province. A little bit of cloud lingering in the southeast, but that should clear up by the evening as well. And if we look at our 5-day forecast here in Vancouver, we've got lots of sunshine on the way. A little bit of rain on Saturday, mostly in that overnight period. Sort of late in the day probably is when we'll get some, and then overnight. But it should clear up by Sunday morning for people who are going to be outside. And then more sunshine on Monday.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
A world-ranking professional kickboxer hung up his gloves 2 years ago. Now, he's making a comeback with a fight lined up in Delta this weekend. How he's prepping after this.
This is one of the Fiona debris drop-off sites. The province opened 16 of these across the island for things like branches and downed trees. All of them closed in October, but some in the area say this pile is still growing.
People continually drop things. They've had to push it back off the road several times.
Monica Simpson lives next door. She says this hasn't been cleared in a year. Now it's wildfire season, and she worries all this could be dangerous.
Everybody else's fire hazard has now become our fire hazard. It's a large pile of wood that we would really like to see gone.
The province says this will all be cleaned up in the next few months. The other sites should be done in the fall. It'll either be buried, chipped and hauled off the island, or burned. In the legislature last week, the opposition asked why the wood hasn't been used to heat buildings. The minister says he's committed to doing better next time.
We're pushing, we're trying to clean up the mess that was after Fiona. That's certainly not how I wanted it to turn out at the end of the day, but our options were extremely limited on what we could do.
But Chris Burritt, who owns a tree service company, is wondering about cleanup now. He says there's still work to do, and there needs to be more ways to get rid of debris.
I think we will be for a long time. I mean, we're still cleaning up, honestly, debris from Dorian in some of the sites. You know, so, and that's to say, like, it doesn't all get cleaned up, but there is still a need.
Right now, he drops most of it here. Island Waste Management Corporation says it's been getting more yard and tree debris. To keep the residential fees down, it says it has to enforce the commercial rate. But at $115 per ton for contractors, Burritt says it's just too expensive.
So that will greatly impact us for sure. When I'm looking at the dump fee, you know, the one that's being proposed, it's more than I'm charging on labor sometimes.
But it's his only choice, and as his work picks up for the season, he hopes everyone can work together to find another option for debris. Fiona, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On May 9th, join CBC Vancouver's Dan Burritt at the Surrey Board of Trade's Top 25 Under 25 Awards, celebrating the incredible initiatives of Surrey's youth. And CBC Vancouver is the exclusive media partner of the Doxa Documentary Film Festival, May 2nd to 12th. Enjoy thoughtful and engaging documentaries, special presentations, and industry events. For festival information, visit doxafestival.ca.
Kickboxing hasn't gotten as much attention lately as other combat sports like boxing and MMA, but that could be changing. A high-profile professional kickboxing fight is taking place in Delta this Saturday.
And one of the competitors was a world-ranked professional kickboxer based in Surrey. He'll be making a comeback after retiring almost 2 years ago. Our Caroline Chan met up with him to see how he's preparing for the big fight.
My name is Josh Chauncey. I'm 31 years old. I'm a professional kickboxer. Been fighting since I was 9 years old, so for a long time in the game. And yeah, on Saturday will be my first fight back in 2 years. I've had a two-year break, and first fight back with an audience since I was 19 years old in Canada, or in BC.
So why come back? Because you retired. You hung it up like 2 years ago, so why come back?
You know, it's It's one of those things where it's never out of me. Like I said, I've been doing this since I was a little kid. I'm always training, even when I'm not fighting. I'm still training. I'm coming into the gym. I'm working with my teammates and all of that, helping them prepare for their fights. And I'm teaching classes at different gyms and that sort of thing too. And so over the last 2 years, I've been teaching and you know, guiding other people. And I'm thinking, maybe I need to put this a bit more, not just sparring, but into fight practice and see if all this works. So I need to come back and make sure things work for my students.
Well, teaching's a little different than training, right? So how have you been trained to get ready for this fight?
So, I mean, it kind of, I fell right back into it, you know, like it never really left me, even, you know, through the 2 years. I mean, I guess 2 years isn't that long, and I'm still young, you know, I'm only 31, so I sort of fell right back into it. I've had some great training partners here at WKX, in Vancouver, Muay Thai Academy, and at Quintet Boxing. So I've been training a lot of different places, different training partners, and I don't know, they've made it intense, but it's still enjoyable. It's been very enjoyable, this training camp, and I've tweaked some things. I've tweaked some things to make it not push myself quite as hard as I used to. You know, as they say, train smarter, not harder. And so I'm sort of implementing that strategy into my training camp. So kickboxing is, of course, you know, cardio and, you know, kind of like a Taibo fitness type thing. But it also has really, really, really like deep roots around the world. Yeah, it's very similar to Muay Thai in the sense of you're hitting each other, full contact, just boxing gloves, no other protection. Punches to the head and body, kicks to the leg, body, head, everything. Knees to the body, knees to the head. The only difference between that and Muay Thai is Muay Thai has elbows and clinching. So they get to grab and knee each other and throw each other down. But in kickboxing, it's made for maximum excitement. So it's only striking, no holding, and it's, you know, 3 minutes, 3 rounds, non-stop action, bam, 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 bam. It was basically made for television.
So the competition this Saturday, what is it, and like, what will you be doing?
So this Saturday is a professional kickboxing fight. So I'll be fighting another professional from America. And yeah, like I said, it'll be punches, kicks, knees, or, you know, allowed all on the body. 3 rounds, 3 minutes, just both of us trying to get the KO, trying to entertain the crowd, and yeah, trying to get the win. So we're going to be going at it, and if anyone knows me and knows my style, they know that I don't pull my punches. I go for it 100%.
Because I was reading that you were only, like in 2019, that was only when you were able to represent BC or fight in BC, right?
Yes, yeah, that's a great point, yeah. So BC had made kickboxing and, well, kickboxing especially, and Muay Thai, it was illegal to compete professionally here. So I not only was I not allowed, or did I not compete here because I was fighting internationally, but I wasn't even allowed to fight here, even if I could, even if I wanted to, because it was a very silly law. Professional boxing was allowed, professional MMA was allowed, but not professional kickboxing, which doesn't really make sense because you can't do MMA without a little bit of kickboxing in there, and that's with small gloves. So we were able, through, you know, a lot of hard work to get that changed, and that took a long time and a lot of red tape to get through that. But eventually we were able to get that changed in 2019, and this will be probably the first high-level professional kickboxing fight that's been here in, I don't know how many, at least a couple decades, for sure.
So it makes it even that much sweeter.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Oh, that's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to bring kickboxing back, and I'm excited to show what the sport has to offer. A lot of people have been very taken by MMA and UFC, and as they should be. It's a great sport, but I think kickboxing holds a lot of the attributes that everyone favors in MMA, that they want to watch in the UFC when they're standing up and they're fighting. It has that, but only that. So there's none of the boring stuff that some people think that, you know, I don't agree with it, but I think, you know, some people believe jiu-jitsu and wrestling is a bit boring, especially casual fans, but they want to see fights and they want to see striking, and this is all kickboxing is. And so I think personally, I think it's the most exciting sport there is, especially combat sports, but I might be biased. April 20th, Sun God Arena, Delta. Be there this Saturday.
Going to be exciting. Good luck to him.
Yeah,
It's a good workout, looks like.
Oh, it's exhausting.
Have you done it?
Once.
Whoa, how'd it go?
Never again.
No?
It's so tiring. It's so hard.
It is very hard.
Yeah. I'm not a punchy person.
No, I didn't get that vibe from you.
No.
And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, our free app, as well as on YouTube and our website, cbc.ca/BC.
And Zora Premji will be here at 11 o'clock with your next local news right after the national. Good night.